All right, guys, it was a full weekend of racing, and this is kind of like an opening to let you guys know that there's a lot of kind of detail in this video because we had a lot of issues. There's videos of my buddy Tim with the Dollar General Fox body, which I'm going to name it, which is I'm going to do full coverage on his car because it is amazing what that car is doing on the amount of money that he's got. And it makes me want to build a Ford. So, but there's videos, but there's going to be talking about what we did. So just kind of, it's kind of like wrapping everything up that has happened from kind of our first outing out with this car to today. And I will say that the carburetor that I had on here was done by Terry when I ran the engine the first time at Great Lakes in the fall. And he's a carb guy. He's very knowledgeable. He does a lot of work for a lot of people. And so does Jim Cooper. But there's a lot of carb people out there. I'm just kind of trying out the least evasive thing I see fit. With Jim Cooper helping me modify the metering blocks, clearly that was very aggressive, but I had a spare set of metering blocks, so I said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And it seemed to work out. You guys will hear about it, so just follow along and pay attention, because this can apply to, I guess, anybody really. Like, I mean, I could have done more in detail work on the carburetors, but you know, it's not that people are like secretive. It's that even I have a hard time understanding. So I don't know if I can explain it properly. So yeah, I could probably do a better job of it, but I would have to explain it, and I'm probably not the greatest. I have a hard time explaining my own stuff. So I'll let you guys go. All right, guys, Cutlass here. It's Sunday. We spent all weekend racing. We tested on Saturday, and we had all kinds of issues. You would think that after all the time and all the effort and driving the car and doing everything, we went out to the track. Our first pass was horrible. It wasn't totally horrible, but I'll explain. So you can see that I unhooked the evac tubes. So even though those breathers are baffled, we were pulling so much vacuum through the exhaust that we were actually pulling oil through the breathers. I smoked out the entire track. You know, and I was worried. I'm like, oh, maybe a ring let go, maybe something. I was like, at that point, I thought I hurt the motor. My buddy Tim was the voice of reason there, and he's like, dude, it smokes after you let go, after you rev it. So it's residual. It's something in the exhaust. So we pulled the tubes off, and sure enough, there was oil in here. So we were pulling oil. As you can see, I put these back in there. And I do plan on running the evac tubes again, but I need to have a better style baffle. Let me pull that out before I forget that it's there. So the evac tubes did in fact pull quite a bit. And we had more distributor issues. So I had a stock body distributor. You know, we thought the coil was bad because it was acting like a bad coil. That wasn't the deal. Thought it was the module. You know, we put a module in it just for, you know, putting new things in it. It's the pickup. The pickup is bad in that distributor. And I'm yet to talk to one of my good friends, Dr. Dan. He knows the HEI distributor very well. I got to ask him if I can put an aftermarket pickup on a stock body distributor. The cheap eBay $50 HEI I bought over 15 years ago is what saved the weekend. That is literally the pickup Even the module is like 15 years old. So the only thing I carried over from the other distributor is it's got a brand new coil from Pertronics on it. But this distributor saved the weekend. And then our tune really came to life. And it was a hot weekend. I'm talking Saturday was in the low 80s, high humidity, and we had a headwind. The car ran like a 1209, I think. I'll have to look at my time slips, to be honest with you. I'll post them up. But it ran like 12.1s, 12.0s with like a 20 mile an hour headwind, 80s, humid, and running out of fuel. The tune is really lean. And we had 76 and 86 jets on it with a 4.5 power valve on it. And this thing was still lean. With open headers, it would pop. Okay. So, you know, I have to Healy coil the main body because the threads are very, very janky right now. So what I ended up doing is I ended up jetting the secondary side a little bit more. So they're not exactly square because technically when you run a power valve and you run a blocker, you want to be about 10 jet sizes different in theory. So it would be like 76, 86. I went to 89s in the rear and the popping was almost gone. But I didn't want to go more on the secondary side because I don't want to disturb the balance of the carburetor, which I already kind of did anyway. So, okay, we got the car to run pretty good. As long as I didn't run it over 6,500 RPM, it was fine. So I set the shift point lower. And on Sunday, you know, we spent all day testing Saturday. We made 4 passes. It was kind of a busy day at the track, but it wasn't a total shit show. But we got the car to go in the right direction. We got the distributor issue figured out. We got the oiling, the fucking exhaust issue figured out. And then we got the lean condition figured out. And our ignition problems are kind of solved, even if this distributor may not be the right height. I'm going with it anyway because you know what? I ran the too tall of a fucking distributor on my previous engine for 6 years. And you know what? There was no engine bearing damage at all. So I may have been grinding the block a little bit, but guess what? That area sees a lot of oil. So what you're going to get is like really, 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 really fine shavings. And I have a magnetic plug in the pan. And you know what? I'm going to throw caution to the wind on that one because I ran this all weekend. We didn't shear the pin off. Nothing went wrong. Let's hope this one works out for now. I do plan on putting a proper height, like stock distributor, that they'll be working good. Right now, I'm trying not to spend money because my wife isn't working. So right now, we are working with what we got, and we have to work with what we got because, yes, I want to go to an MSD distributor, hook up the box, and just get it over with. And yes, I want a new carburetor, and I'm going to touch on that right now. So, common theory tells us that if you have to jet a carburetor more than 4 sizes from its factory settings, it's the wrong carburetor. Well, right now, if I square this carburetor up, we're pretty much about 4 sizes over that. And it's still, I think it's still going to be lean once I square it up. Now, we did make some changes, and I'll touch on that in a bit, but and again, it's how you do things and the tuning of the carburetor as well. So either way, this carburetor may be a little small. Due to the amount of jet that it wants, it may want an 850. And I got a line on a really good one. But we're going to wait for now because I can't spend, again, money. Between a carburetor and an MSD distributor and all that stuff, we're going to be spending like $1,500 that I really can't spend right now. So I have to work with what I got. So at the track, our other friend, Terry, who's also a carburetor guy, he set up the carburetor on my last engine and it ran its fastest with his tune. it ran at 1149 with his setup. And in the heat, it ran at 1157 at Indy. So he was there today. Jim Cooper has also been helping me, but we have just been going back and forth through Messenger, and I just send him messages because I don't want to bug him. He's helping me for free, so I take it as I can get it. Well, Terry told me to change the high-speed air bleeds. And we had 35s in there, and we went all the way down to a 28. He's like, put 28s in it and see how bad it is. Well, nothing really changed. So we went way down. I mean, way down there. And that's a big change because that's going to really fatten up the mixture. We didn't follow out the plugs. We checked the plugs. Yes, I'm still not having an AFR gauge on it, but we've been reading the plugs down in the porcelain with a magnifying glass and a light, like one of those little ear scopes. My buddy Tim has one, and we've been reading the plugs and checking everything between runs. And on the last run, the car ran good. It felt like it wasn't laboring as much on the big end. And the plug certainly darkened up a bit, but it didn't foul it out or soot it up or this, that, and the other. So, and changing that high-speed air bleed won't require that much of a jet change. It just changes the way that the fuel is drawn and how much of it. So, rule of thumb, I believe, is like every 1,000th will change it, the fuel amount, 10% in either direction in certain circuits. So we went to a 28 from a 35, and like the mile an hour was there. I spun. I actually spun. I didn't do the world's biggest burnout, but you know, when I launched, it actually spun, but it ran a 1211 at 109 with a 1760 foot, which is horrible. This car is usually good for a 160, 260 foot. It's going to get better once the carburetor tune gets better. And we still have to work on it because today, since this carburetor was lean, it worked against us. Now, when you have a lean carburetor, what's going to happen is that it'll tend to run crappier in cold weather, and then it'll tend to run really good on hot, humid days. And today was a perfect example of that. Our first two test runs were quick and fast in the morning. And then by the time eliminations came around, so since I ran a 1211, I figured let's put a 1210 on the window. I ran a 1208 at 105, and I let off at the 1,000 foot. I made a mistake by letting off. I should have hit the brakes. So, and again, we're bracket racing. But the car spit out 3 identical time slips over the weekend. So we are like on par for consistency here. We just need to get a better tune to where we don't want to predict the car speeding up. That's harder. It's easier to predict the car slowing down. And this is my past experience bracket racing. After our first 2 time runs with my last combination, the car would always slow down like 1.5 to 2 tenths. After you got heat soaked, after the weather set in, and it would stay there. And we're working towards that. But I think the fuel and air requirements of this engine are actually more. And I mean, we're up there in jet. We're in 850 country, you know. And bunch of people have told, multiple carburetor guys have told me that. Terry told me that. Jim Cooper told me that. I can't quote this 100%, but I think Mylan also mentioned that. That was a lot of jet. And even my old engine had a lot of jet. And I ran an 850 and it box stock and it ran the same. So it probably, even that engine probably could have benefited from an 850. So at this point, Terry has a really nice 850 that's been reworked. And he's going to let me try it out. And he's going to help me set it up. And if it works out, then I'm going to end up buying that carburetor. But for now, we have to work with what we got. So we fattened it up by changing the high-speed air bleeds, and the car didn't slow down. It stayed the same. I did spin on that run, but it wasn't lean. That's the most important thing. We don't want to kill this engine. We have a total of, I think, about 20 passes now on this engine, and it's getting better. I think the rings are kind of finally starting to seal up. That number 5 plug isn't nearly as wet with oil as it used to be. I don't know if that was a ring seal issue or a valve guide issue, but this thing's running good. It's running good. I mean, we spit out pretty good time slips this weekend considering the weather, and I'm very happy with it. So this video has, kind of gone on long enough, but you guys are going to have to bear with me. After all this work, what happened last time at the track, we went back to the track and it was even more work than the first time or the second time out with this engine. This is our third time out with this engine, but it was a full weekend. So it was like 2 outings in 1 weekend pretty much. But we're going in the right direction, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the saga of our J-headed small block olds. It definitely has the potential there. We just have to get our fuel demands under control, and I'm understanding more and more the more we do with it. And yeah, there's a little bit of theory from one guy, the other guy, but also, like I told you guys the other day, you have to take in any information that you can and apply it as you see fit. You're not going to question theory or physics, but what you're going to end up doing is just having a broader range of knowledge. And the funny part is, after Terry told me to change the high-speed air bleeds, Jim Cooper told me to put 31s in it. And that's actually what Terry had suggested. Now, obviously, these names are names of people that I race or know. So Terry suggested 31s, but he's like, I got a set of 28s we can put in there right now. So we went ahead and put a set of 28s in there. And that was a big change, but the car didn't fall on its face. It didn't sputter. It didn't break up. And the plugs weren't, like, thawed out after that run, Now I'm at the point where, yes, let's put the AFR on and have the one evac tube blocked off, because we would have killed the AFR gauge on one run. It would have been so soaked with fucking oil. So it's been long enough. I'll let you guys go.
12.0.
12.0?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be around 31, 32 high speeds in there. If anything, it should be